Give us a couple of seconds. We'll be right back with you. Okay, just give us a couple of seconds. I've got a song that I need to play.
No, you don't. Don't worry about it today.
No, I will.
No. It's being a pain in the butt. Baby, look up the top. It's the net that's being a pain in the butt. So we won't worry about it today.
Okay, so welcome to the show. We just had a couple of technical difficulties. The weather's been a bit dodgy here in Adelaide. We had heavy fog early this morning, which is now cleared up. And yeah, we're here. So if you can hear us, thank you. So welcome everybody. Welcome to a Sunday episode. If you're overseas, it's your Saturday. Please smash the like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that you normally do. If you'd like to support this channel, support it. If you don't, oh well, no big loss. Well, in today's episode, it's going to be a two-parter. It's going to be an extended episode because we are talking about the two massive cold cases here in Adelaide, one being the 1966, the missing Beaumont Children, and we're also talking about the 1973 cold case, the Adelaide Oval abduction. In the second part, it will just be me, and right now we're talking about the Beaumont Children, which I have my lovely partner and producer Shay here, so give her a warm welcome, because we have been having in-depth conversation in regards to the two missing cold cases that are here, and it's still active cold cases. But first and foremost, I do want to say something. I will be dropping a link in the video below after this episode is completed, because there's an updated book that is now up for pre-sale. Hello, Chrissy. You can pre-sale this book. It's an updated version of the Unmasking of the Killer of the Missing Beaumont Children, which is going to have extra chapters in it.
Apparently it's 3.
About 3 or 4 chapters, and it's up for pre-sale now. So if you're living overseas and whatnot and you want to get this book, it's up for pre-sale. So keep an eye out after the episode that is concluded. I will be dropping the link underneath the video for people to pre-order.
It'll be a pinned comment.
And the pinned comment too. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Shay, because we've been having an in-depth conversation, and it's in regard to the Beaumont Children disappearance. And there are some things that we're going to talk about that is involved with this upcoming book. Let me just read the back of the book, because it's a particular thing that I need to read. So this is the back of the book that I'm going to read. On Australia Day of 1966, Jane, Anna and Grant Beaumont were abducted from Collie Reserve, Glenelg, South Australia, and never to be seen again, leading to one of Australia's most extensive police investigations and manhunts. 5 decades later, no trace of the children has ever been found. Over the years, several individuals have been put forward and investigated, resulting in false leads and dead ends, and with no real suspect until now. Harry Phipps. On the surface, he was a gentleman, generous, charismatic, and intelligent, and a person of wealth and influence in the community. However, a dramatically different person resided behind the walls of his Glenelg mansion. In the unmasking of the killer of the missing Beaumont Children, author Stuart Mullins and former South Australian police detective Bill Hayes exposed Harry Phipps as the prime suspect in the abduction, disappearance, and likely murder of the Beaumont Children. Over 10 pieces of circumstantial evidence linking Phipps to the Beaumont abduction are explored in detail, supported by geographic and predator profiling chapters, which details how these monsters operate. The author explored a potential link to the 1973 Adelaide Oval abduction of Kirsty Gordon and Joanne Radcliffe, which I will be talking about, updated report that came out last night about that case, and reveal conversation with Hayden Phipps, which is the eldest son of Harry Phipps, the eldest son of Harry, as a possible eyewitness to the fateful day. Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes answer the questions where to next. Along with other experts, they firmly believe the answer to the baffling mystery lies buried at Cast Alloy, a factory once owned by Harry Phipps. And Shay and I had been to Cast Alloy several times in the last dig that happened in late February this year.
Yep.
So I'm going to pass the microphone over to my lovely partner and producer, Shay, because we've got things to talk about. Now, Shay, we were talking about Hayden, who is the eldest son of Harry. We had many, many conversations, but...
Sorry, I just realised.
If you see a little thing around my finger, it's the sun shining off Shay's phone.
I got my phone in my hand.
It's reflecting. It's a symbol, right? But anyway, we were talking about the son of Harry,
Hayden,
who is Hayden.
So we're talking about the eldest.
Hayden is the eldest son, and he did a testimony to Bill Hayes before he passed away. Now, it's been documented in the testimony and in the book that Hayden did see Jane, Anna, and Grant on the day of the disappearance. But that's not where the conversation that Shay and I had. I'm passing the microphone over to Shay because Shay said this months, if not years ago, before the connection that now has came out.
Okay, it's a bit more than that. So, the conversation we were having was around the fact that Hayden has always said that he was there. Now, in my head, I ended up coming to the conclusion that Harry had to have known that Hayden was there. And it then leads back to the fact that Anna that morning had been saying that Jane's got a boyfriend. And then that then leads into the whole food that was purchased.
Now, if you remember the food, the kids did not have the money because the mother gave them shillings and sixpences, right? Just loose change to get the bus ride to and from Glenelg and to get a little bite to eat. But that money went missing in this whole episode of the disappearance of the Beaumont Children. The money went missing, and also Jane's carry-on purse or clip bag, that went missing, where the money was in.
Basically, the money that they were given by their mum went missing. So
the story unfolded that the person or the man involved gave the children, especially to Jane, because she was the eldest, a £1 note to buy party pies, cupcake or finger buns, and 2 bottles of drink, fizzy drink. That items were far too much for children, one age 4, the other one age 7, the other one age 10 and 11, to consume. But
now we know that one of them was for the man. We know that. The question then became, who were the 2 extra finger buns and sausage rolls?
No, it wasn't a sausage roll, it was a meat pie.
The meat pie was for the man. But who were the extra pasties? That's what pasties. It was. Who were the extra 2 pasties and who were the 2 extra finger buns for? And that got me thinking, could Harry have used the fact that he knew his son would probably rock up at some point around lunchtime to get the children to go with him and help him purchase lunch for his son, being Hayden. And that then got me thinking, could Hayden have been used to further what Harry did?
Well, the thing that I want to say is this. Harry did mention to Bill Hayes in a testimony, and it's also documented in the book, that he did indeed see the 3 missing Beaumont children on the day of the disappearance at the residence of where they were living in Glenelg, which was, we've been to the residence. It's only a short walk from Collie Reserve. It's like, give or take, 110 metres from Collie Reserve. 110 metres, maybe
it's not
shorter.
that far.
Not that far, right? It was in walking distance. We've been to the house. And on Saturday, the father, Harry, used to call the Saturday fuck off Saturday. It means no one was allowed to be on the property, or no one was allowed to come on the property, because in his mind, he will do his fetish on a Saturday, and his fetish was to wear silk satin. Every time Harry Phipps, the father, wears silk satin, he gets sexually aroused and he does these type of activity, allegedly. But the son, Hayden, was in the backyard in the cubby house, tree house, whatnot, with his friend from work. He came home from lunch, and them two saw the 3 missing Beaumont children. Now, what Shay was saying, could the father use his son to help lure the children, because it's been documented that the Beaumont children were down at Glenelg Beach the day before they disappeared.
Yeah.
So, did the father use his eldest son to help lure the missing Beaumont children? Because on the day of the disappearance, at the dining table at the house of the Beaumonts, Jane was getting picked on by her other sister, Anna, and I think Grant too, but mainly Anna. Jane got a boyfriend. Jane got a boyfriend.
Typical sibling rivalries type stuff. Typical sibling, just typical siblings, really.
Now,
my brother and I were like that. This one and his sister, they're still like that.
There has been a comment from Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes, who is the co-authors of this book. At first, they thought that Hayden was just an eyewitness. Well, he is an eyewitness. However, up until now, they also believe that Hayden has a lot more involvement with the missing of the Beaumont children. That's according to them.
Okay, they say more involvement, but I'm wondering, could it have been, and this is where my thought process came into play, could it have been unintentional involvement? So the fact that Harry knew that Hayden was there with his friend. He knew that both his boys had been down at Collie Reserve the day before. And this is where I think the youngest, so Hayden's the eldest.
There's another son.
Can never remember the youngest's name.
But he's the youngest son is around about the same age.
He was closer in age to Jane.
But he wasn't at the property at the time.
And we know for a fact that he wasn't there. He was off with his mum doing
and he's adamant
something else.
And the youngest son is adamant that his father got nothing to do with it. So basically he's trying to...
Well, it's not necessarily cover it up.
Yeah.
It could simply be that he believed in his father that much that he refused to believe that his father could have been involved. And you will find in a lot of cases of horrific murders or even serial killers. I have a thing for watching shows like Criminal Minds. And one thing that they say in that with the serial killers is that, generally speaking, the kids don't know. Like they kind of suspect something, but they refuse to acknowledge that that's what their parent is doing. So they may know something, like every time their father goes and kills somebody, they get a gift. Like their dad will come home and he'll have a new toy for them, or they'll get a puppy, or they'll get a kitten or something like that. And it kind of tends to coincide with the murder of somebody. And that could be what the case is here with Harry's youngest son. Every time he did something like that, he'd bring home something new for his son, and he wouldn't think, his son can't believe that that's what his dad would do, which is why he will always stick up for him. It's not that he doesn't, or it's not that he knows and he's trying to cover up. It's that it's his dad, and his dad's always been really good to him and never hurt him, never did anything to him. So therefore, why would he do this? Why would people be saying this? And that's why. So they stick up for their parents. But it's not out of fear of being hurt because they're sticking up for them. It's because they honestly do believe that their parent couldn't do something like that because of the way they were treated.
But my question I want to ask you, Shay, is what makes you think that Hayden may have more involvement than what is being documented, like Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes have recently come out, which is going, they're going to go into more. Both Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes, who was the co-author of the updated book, they also believe that Hayden has a lot more involvement in the missing Beaumont Children. They didn't say what it is. Well,
it's not okay. So it's not in the original.
It's not in the original. I've got the original book behind you, Shay.
Yeah, it's behind me somewhere. It's more in the
new one.
The new one, which is just
is now up for pre-sale.
Yeah, so it's in the one of the chapters, or one of the 3 new chapters does go into that bit more. And at the moment, we don't really know. But the reason I think what I think in regards to, now, it may simply be that Harry used events, allegedly used events in the days leading up to their disappearance. It could be something as simple as that.
Do you think that Hayden, who is the son of Harry, is an accomplice?
No. Well, not a willing accomplice. And I say that because...
Well, do you believe there was more than one person involved in the disappearance of the Beaumont children?
Well, considering the fact that it was 3 children, yes.
That therefore it opens up the door, allegedly...
It does open up the door.
That Hayden must have something to do with either the abduction or some type of cover-up.
Okay. So what I'm saying is I'm leaning more towards the actual abduction is where Hayden's involvement is more prominent.
Because I truly believe Hayden knows a lot more than what he gave out in the testimony.
I'm willing to... Everybody that's listened to that testimony have all said there's more. He's hiding something.
He's hiding something. Even the person who is an expert in lie detecting type of thing. He said that, Hayden is telling the truth, but he's also hiding a lot.
He's holding something back. There's something else there that he just cannot bring himself to talk about. And of course, now that he's passed away, there's no way that we're going to ever know.
Hayden is no longer alive. The father's no longer alive. The youngest son is still alive.
But as I said,
the wife is no longer alive either.
Yeah, the only one that was around at the time.
Most of the people.
No, the only one who was around in relation to Harry Phipps, the only one who is still alive, will never say anything. And it's not because he may not know, or he may not. It is just the mentality that he's got because of the way he was treated by his dad.
I'm going to close that blind just a little bit, please.
Yeah, sorry.
It's getting a bit brighter now, so just close just a little bit. Other way. Keep going. There we go.
There we go. That's better. I can actually see better now.
But what really made you dig?
I've always questioned whether or not, when I finally found out exactly how much food was purchased, because for quite a while there, all I knew was that there was enough food purchased for the kids, their mother, and the man. What I didn't realize...
The mother?
Because that's what I assumed it was.
Well, there was a report that never got followed through, and I said it when we did the video. What was it? That would have been 2 years ago when we done the walk around video. That there was a eyewitness report that never got followed through by the South Australian Police, which was at the T-junction of the residency and the street that leads up to the bakery, Wenzel's Bakery. But it's right on the corner. It's off.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The eyewitness report said this, that the children were seen with the man and another man and a woman. Now, the man that was described as a notable man that was in the horse racing business. The woman was described as wearing a flowery dress. Now, who was this man and who was this woman? We don't know, because the report never got followed through by the South Australian Police. They just brushed it off. But that report was a little bit eye-opening for me, because it was an eyewitness who saw 3 young children with the man, with another man, and another woman. Now, are they 2 other adults involved with the disappearance? Who knows?
There's a lot of...
But it all but many people are saying, many people are asking, well, what more does Hayden know? Hayden must have known and done something, whether he is an accomplice, whether he covered something up, blah, 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 allegedly. Now, I want to give out the warning. Southern Truth is for entertainment purposes only. We talk news, rumours, gossip, speculation, theory, tied in with a little bit of my sense of humour comedy. All names that have mentioned are innocent to proven guilty in the court of law, and everyone shall remain innocent to proven guilty in the court of law. Any opinions of those in the chat room or any opinions that may come in the comment section underneath the video are their opinions only, and nothing to facilitate with opinions of your truly or Shay. Any opinions that your truly or Shay have are only that opinion. They're not actually fact. Do your own research. Just want to give out that warning first. So everyone is innocent to proven guilty.
Yeah, unlike a lot of cases these days where they're guilty until proven innocent.
What does Hayden know? Well, what involvement would he have done? Look, because the reason why I'm asking this, and we are going to talk about the Adelaide Oval abduction, but I want to go back to this.
He will.
I want to go back to this. When it came to the Adelaide, when it comes to the Michigan Beaumont Children, there another person that I have spoken to face to face at the last Calf Alloy dig site early this year, who always talk about Stansbury, and he's adamant that his father and his friend at the time were involved. But he also said to me that he was also involved in getting rid of a body. Didn't say it was the Beaumont Children, but he did say it was the body of a young person. He done the act, he cleaned up the blood, he got rid of the body. I'm just asking a question to Shay and the audience. If this person's saying that he'd done some type of cover-up on whatever other disappearance it was, is it possible? I'm not saying this is what it is eventuating, but is it possible that Hayden, who's the son of Harry, who's been alleged suspect in the missing Beaumont Children, could Harry, the father, use his son as an acquaintance to cover up his dirty work?
Yeah, that's always a possibility. That Harry used his own son to cover it up.
I'm not saying Hayden did anything, but it just, from what has came out now from the 2 co-authors, they believe that Hayden got more involvement to the missing Beaumont children. He has more involvement. And it's only just coming out now because they keep doing their digging and researching, and they're getting new evidence given to them and provided to them. However, this is where we want to talk about what the discussion that we had about 2 hours ago.
Oh, by the way, this is a conversation that we've had multiple times.
But the conversation that I brought up.
Oh, we're going on to that conversation.
It comes to the fact now, this is in regard to the Beaumont case and the Adelaide Oval abduction, which I will go into more detail of some of the stuff that came out last night. But I just want to say this when Shay is here. They are now saying, in hindsight, that the Beaumont Children case and the Adelaide Oval abduction case is somehow connected. Now, the conversation that Shay and I had this morning is, we can't allege every single person to be a PDF file. I'm using another term because YouTube don't like the other word. Right? I have been in several other groups where other people have accused of other people being a PDF file without any proof of evidence whatsoever, which is wrong, mind you. If you accuse someone of something that is not proven, then there's ramifications for that, consequences. However, when it comes back to the Beaumont children and the thing, we do know there was a PDF file ring here in South Australia. However, my point is this. How do we know for certain that the people that have been alleged, and there's been several people being alleged in these cases, how do we know for certain that they are involved with the PDF file ring here in South Australia? Now, one of the alleged suspects who has been cleared was Percy. He never lived in South Australia, but he did travel to South Australia of the day of the disappearance. And he was at the location at Burnell Beach of the day of the disappearance. Now, he's also been alleged to be the prime suspect of the Wonder Beach murders that happened before the Beaumont children over at New South Wales. But he travelled. It's been known, it's been documented that Percy, who's no longer alive, he travelled to South Australia, and he was in South Australia at Burnell Beach of the day of the disappearance. Now, he's not the only person. Von Enham was also down at Burnell Beach. He's in jail for another crime, the family murders. You heard about that, right? There's Munro and McIntyre. Munro's in jail for another crime he committed to the son of Alan Maxwell McIntyre. He's still alive. Alan Maxwell McIntyre is no longer alive. But both of them been alleged to be down at Burnell of the day of the disappearance also. Dan Arthur Hart, Dan Arthur Brown, both been alleged to be down at Burnell of the day of the disappearance of the missing Beaumont children. There's other people being alleged to be down there at the time too. But my point is this, and Shay, I'll hand the microphone over to you. How do we know for certain, 100% certain, that these people who've been alleged to be in a PDF file ring? Now, I will say this before I hand it over. They had been charged and convicted of being a PDF file after the disappearance. Not before, after. As far as I'm aware, Percy was known to the police prior to the disappearance. But the police has ruled him out as being the suspect of the disappearance of the Beaumont children.
Okay, so what it comes down to, and you need to, when you're looking at it, sorry, just put my phone away for a second. When you're looking at it, you need to take into account that, back then, social media didn't exist. So, or the internet as in and of itself didn't exist. So you've got to just sit there and go, well, how did they contact each other? If they were in a ring, How did they get in contact? And this was a conversation that we were having. Now, because most of the alleged a-holes weren't at the time known to police in that way for that particular thing. They may have been known for other things, but they weren't on the police's radar, minus Percy, for that sort of stuff.
Maybe Dan Arthur Hart or Brown. There were two. There's Dan Arthur Hart and there's Dan Arthur Brown. I don't know which one, but I think one of them was also known to the police. But
that was after the bomb.
No, one of them was known to the police prior to the disappearance.
No, I was going to say, he became known, the one you're talking about, he became known, again, after the
there were two other children that got unalived up in Queensland.
Yeah, and that
who owns a property at Yatna, which we're going to talk about with the Adelaide Oval abduction.
So he became known after the Beaumont children went missing, but before the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, because the Adelaide Oval abduction happened 8 years after the Beaumont.
So there's this 8-year window where some of them ended up on the radar, but prior to that, they weren't. And this is what I was saying to you earlier, because, and even back then, they probably wouldn't, a lot of them really wouldn't have thought about using or having a phone number under an alias. It wasn't a thing back then. Unless you were part of like the mafia or the mob or something like that, and you were high up, you really wouldn't think of having a phone number under an assumed name.
Well, most people didn't think there was a pedophile ring. They didn't think that children were being SA. They didn't believe that. Even some of the police officers didn't believe.
They couldn't believe that was going on.
That was ever happening. Unfortunately, it did.
Unfortunately, we now know that it was running rife, because the police couldn't believe it.
And that's why it still remains a cold case. It still remains an open case. There's still a reward for both the Beaumont children and the Adelaide Oval abduction still out there. There's still a reward out there.
It's also one of the reasons why the Mulligan report has been suppressed.
Well, in my honest opinion, I don't think you're going to convict anybody. The only reason being is
most of them aren't alive anymore.
They're not alive anymore. Most of these people are long gone. And
what we're talking about here is we're not talking about the victims.
No, we're talking about the people who are actually involved.
We're actually talking about the alleged perpetrators.
Yeah.
They're not around anymore. The victims still are, which is why with the Mulligan report, it's been suppressed. It's not to a degree, it probably is to protect some of the alleged perpetrators, but at the end of the day, they're trying to protect the victims. And the downside to them trying to protect the victims is that there are perpetrators who will be protected because of it.
Well, the South Australian Police came out on the last dig down at Calf Valley that they private investigative teams are not supported by the South Australian Police because they believe that they private investigative teams that doing the Beaumont children and Adelaide Oval abduction case, they private investigators and putting a strain on the victim family. What they don't realise is one of the sisters who got abducted at the Adelaide Oval is part of the private investigative team up at Yatna.
So there's something that's always irked me when it comes to the police coming out and saying stuff like that. Yes, there are cases where it can cause stress to the families of the victims. But if you look at cases overseas, I mean, look at the Madeleine McCain situation. Situation. A lot of the stuff that's been found has been from private investigators.
And same as the Joe Benet too.
And John Benet Ramsey. Again, private investigators. The private investigators have a better ability to, because that is literally all they are looking at. They are looking at one case. They don't have multiple cases that they're looking at. So they can spend all their time looking at just one case, going through all the evidence, everything with a fine-tooth comb, whereas the police don't have that ability, which is why in the US they love them.
It's the same with the Peter Volconio murder. I mean, the guy he's been convicted.
He's been convicted, but a lot of people think
that murder, Bradley murder, he's on his deathbed now, and apparently he's going to do a deathbed confession where the actual body. They haven't found Peter Volconio's body, mind you, but they have convicted Bradley murder of doing the
and that's
crime.
solely based off of her
statement. Now, I truly believe Joanne, the girlfriend, I think she has a lot more involvement. You see her testimony, you see the way that she was put on a show for everybody. That's just my opinion, but the body of her boyfriend, Peter Volconio, that happened in the outback here in Australia in, early 2000, Peter Volconio's body has never been found, but yet they convict Bradley Murdoch of doing the crime, unaliving. He's on his deathbed right now. He's only got a day or two to live. Now, apparently, he's going to make a deathbed confession. Whatever that deathbed confession is, who knows? But in my opinion, he was down here in Adelaide for another drug charge, right? He was fine. He was walking out of the courtroom here in Adelaide. The police was waiting for him outside the courtroom and dragged him out in front of the media into another police car to extradite him from Adelaide to Darwin for the Peter Volconio murder.
See, I've always had an issue with that particular case. But then I've now got an issue with the fact that he's going to make this deathbed confession.
Yep.
In the how much medication, painkillers, is he going to have in his system?
Well, he's got he's got some type of cancer.
He's got some sort of cancer, which means that he's going to be in a lot of pain, which means that they're going to have to, he's going to be on morphine.
Well, many people thought that Ivan Milat was going to do a deathbed.
Oh, yeah, no, he never was.
He didn't. And I truly believe he was involved with a lot more than what he did. I mean, yeah, he's done a lot of
unaliving. He did a lot of it.
But I truly believe there's a lot more other people that still haven't been found that were kind of connected to the backpack of murders here in Australia. But going back to the missing Beaumont Children and the Adelaide Oval abduction, before Shay has to go, and I'll still be here because I've got some new information that came out last night. What makes you think, Shay, that the Adelaide Oval and the missing Beaumont Children may be connected? Okay,
so it comes back to the whole a-hole ring and the fact, and this was it's empty.
There's a drink there, it's empty. I just wanted to sip, but it's empty.
So, and this is where I had to seriously look at it from the standpoint of what was going on back then. So it would have been what we now call snail mail. So letters through the post. And back then they wouldn't have really paid much attention to what was being sent.
Do you think the same people are involved?
Strong possibility. Or at least
what, you
the
think
same.
That, all right, well, let's
hang on.
Let's just throw it out there.
Hang on, let me finish. Or at least the same ring. So if it was a ring that was involved.
I'm not talking about the ring. We know there's a ring. Okay, I know there's a ring, but I'm talking about the people actually involved. But do you believe, my question is, sorry for interrupting, sorry for cutting you off, but do you believe if they are connected, the Beaumont Children disappearance and the Adelaide Oval abduction disappearance, do you believe, now I'm going to run out some names here, allegedly suspects, names, they're innocent to proven guilty. Do you believe that Harry Phillips is involved in both of these cases?
No.
Do you believe that Dan Arthur Hart is connected?
No.
What about Dan Arthur Brown?
Nope.
Alan Maxwell McIntyre?
Maybe.
Tony Munro?
Maybe.
Percy?
No.
Von Adam?
Maybe. But okay, so let me explain why I say that. I think if both cases are connected, it's not because of the people. It's not because of the people that have been named at the moment. It's because of the ring that was around at the times.
Well, that's the thing. There's a Mulligan inquiry report that's been suppressed for 80, 90 years,
and
right?
we know that there was a ring here.
Which does mention the Adelaide Oval abduction, which does also mention about the missing Beaumont children, also mention about the sexual crimes in children of state care.
And that was all done by this ring. Or
now,
the children in state care was the ring.
It's done by this ring. This is where I come to a bit of an argument when it comes to that. People are saying that these people that I've mentioned are literally named in this Mulligan inquiry report.
As being part
They haven't seen the report. It's been suppressed from the general public for 90 years. So no one can get to see it. The only ones that have seen it are the people that done the inquiry. Right? No one has seen the report from the general public.
Even then, not everybody who was part of the Mulligan report has seen the whole thing.
So how do they know that these people that I have named allegedly, who could be involved in other crimes as well, how do they know that they were part of the PDF file ring?
Okay, so what?
It's the fault groups.
Hang on.
Whoever speaks the loudest, they get the more traffic.
Hang on. So before the Mulligan report was suppressed, there was a bunch of names released. Now, the names that were released or spoken about in regard to the Mulligan report were the ones who we already knew about, because there'd been rumours floating around about them for a while. They just confirmed.
Yeah, that's all these other people that I've released that've been named. But that's not what I'm getting at. The getting at is, how do they know they general social commentary?
Oh, the social commentators.
How do they know for certain that these people that's been alleged, they haven't been convicted of the disappearance of the Beaumont children, or no one has, or the Adelaide Oval. No one's been convicted.
And no one probably will be.
Right? No one's been convicted. But how do they know for certain that these people that's been alleged are indeed involved in a PDF file ring here in South Australia?
From the social commentator standpoint, they don't. The only way they would ever find out would be if somebody who was involved in reporting to the Mulligan report.
We'll say this. It has been known that these people that have been alleged have committed crime after the disappearance to younger people.
And would
therefore they've been convicted as a PDF file.
And would therefore be in the Mulligan report. So, for example,
the family murders is in there.
Yeah, but
that's Von Adam.
Yeah, he's definitely in this Mulligan report. But yeah, a few of the others that have been allegedly.
I don't even think that Harry Phipps is actually named in the Mulligan. I don't know if he is or not.
Okay.
I don't think he is.
Phipps, we don't know, but we do know that there's at least Munro is definitely in the report.
Alan McIntyre.
I do believe he's in the
Dan
report.
Dan Arthur Hart, that one up at Yatina that can't investigate. Okay. He's in his name.
And the only reason we know this is because they were convicted around the time that this Mulligan report was being done.
And this is why there has been a new report now by the social commentary and in the private investigative team of both camps, the Beaumont Children and the Adelaide Oval Abduction. They're now saying
that they could actually be connected.
That both of these cases are connected.
Well, not necessarily connected, but at least linked.
Yep. Well, connected, linked, same thing.
Kind of. Linked means that whoever was involved in one may not have been involved in the other, but was part of the ring that was involved in both.
The ring means associates. Who were the associates? That's the main question. Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes has said this, and some other people, even myself. Who were the other associates that were involved?
Because if you look specifically at the Beaumont children, that was 3.
3 children.
3 children.
2 children in the Adelaide Oval abduction.
Now, taking 2 is, from what I've read, from what I've seen in TV shows.
The one that Bates murders, 2.
2 tends to be easier, especially when it comes to children, to control. 3 isn't.
Well, the youngest one in the Beaumont was 4, and in my opinion and other people's opinion, if there was only one person involved in the disappearance of the Beaumont children, knowing there's a 4-year-old child amongst the group of the 3 children, it would have slowed the process down, because you've got to put yourself in the mind of a perpetrator. You want to be in and out as quickly as possible without anybody else seeing.
So so if you look at the fact that the youngest was 4,
and if it's on foot,
they're all on foot. Now
there has been reports there was a vehicle involved, but that's speculation.
But, and this is just something that's popped into my head, was to say that whoever took them didn't pick up Grant and give him a piggyback.
Well, Jane used to carry Grant in her arms.
Exactly. So then, I mean, it could be done with one.
But why would Hayden, the eldest son of Harry, pinpointed the description not only of the children, but the clothes they were wearing and the towels, patterns and colours to a T in his testimony? Why would he describe and make the description down to the key in his testimony to Bill Hayes? Because he knows a lot more.
He knows more than he said.
And it now coming out that to Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes, it's now coming out that Hayden has a lot more involvement. Now, whatever that involvement is, we don't know. We'll find out in the updated book. But Hayden got a lot more involvement of the disappearance of the missing Beaumont children.
Yep.
So, yes, okay. So I'm just saying. So you're saying they're somehow, some way, some form connected?
I think so, yes. And I also think that Hayden had more, like whether or not he physically had anything to do with it, don't know. And I don't think we will ever know. But I definitely think that he had, there was more. There was more that he was involved with. Which I do know sounds a little strange, but yeah, I really do think he had, like, it may have been as simple as Harry knew that he was there, knew what had happened the day before, used him to lure the children and keep them calm and go, yeah, we're going to go see my son, or we've got to go get my son lunch, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah, keep talking. I just have to pick something up.
Yeah, he made a spelling mistake.
Oh, wait. I misspelled something. It's okay.
He's just changing it.
It's okay. We are going to drop the link of the pre-order after the episode is done.
No, you can't. You can't. Just ignore it. No, you can't make it. You're going to have to wait until you're done.
I'll do it later.
All right.
Oh, it's done. It's already there.
Okay, so did it.
Now we're going to talk about the Adelaide Oval abduction, because there's new reports that came out. And say goodbye to Shay. She's just stepping out of the room for now. And it gives me another half an hour to 45 minutes to talk about the Adelaide Oval abduction. Now, the question that is asked is, are these two cases are connected? Well, many people think they are and whatnot. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to give you some information that came out last night in regard to the Adelaide Oval. Now, if you remember in an early episode up at Yatna, where they're doing the investigation of the Adelaide Oval abduction, they found this little piece of small bone. You remember me talking about? Well, new information about this bone has came out last night. We're going to share you Adelaide 9 News bulletin that aired last night in regard to that. So give me a couple of seconds. Just hopefully this will show for you guys.
It's mid-north. Forensic
just hold up for a second. All right. Take it away, Jamie. Take it away.
A private investigation into the Adelaide Oval abduction mystery has uncovered an unusual piece of bone fragment in the state's mid-north. Forensic archaeologists say they're confident it could belong to a human child and recommending it undergo DNA testing immediately.
It's just a small fragment, but it holds the weight of significant possibility.
It's as simple as if your girls went missing, how would you feel?
Joanne Radcliffe was just 11 years old and Kirsty Gordon only 4 when they disappeared from an Adelaide Oval football game in 1973. A private team working to solve the case recently digging up an unusual bone fragment.
Jumped out at us literally as it has some what appeared at on site there to be glass embedded in it.
Taking it to several forensic experts, one independent archaeologist says he's 90% certain it could form part of a small human pelvis.
It was obvious that it had unfused growth plates, meaning it was from an immature person.
The private investigation team says it's been acting on a promising tip-off. The object found while they were digging at a property in SA's mid-north, formerly owned by a man named Stanley Hart, who's previously been linked to the girl's disappearance. Police searched the site in 2013 and 2014, but have since discounted it and ruled out Stan Hart as a suspect. Private investigators still convinced there's more to unearth.
We had some very specific information to look for what we were looking for and where we were looking for it.
The samples are now undergo DNA analysis. If the fragment is found to be a human bone, then the team are legally obligated to turn it over to police immediately.
We are working to be very transparent.
What's your response to the police commissioner cautioning that private search teams need to be mindful of potentially raising hope?
We are very aware that our efforts raise hope, and that's why we're doing it.
Samantha Hogan, 9 News.
All right, back to you guys. So, early this year, the South Australian Police came out and done a press conference in regard to certain private investigative groups, one being the missing Beaumont Children case and this one of the Adelaide Oval, of putting a strain on the victims' families and raising false hope. Yes, there has been a lot of roadblocks in regard to both of these cases, and unfortunately, the South Australian Police has shied away from this because they don't believe there's any potential evidence that can solve the case. However, both of these private investigation teams have uncovered more evidence that the South Australian Police has never done. And one of them coming to the bone fragment. Now, Hannenberg, I've met him personally down at the last cast alloy dig. He was involved with that. He's a forensic archaeologist from a university. And basically, he's also seen this bone. Now, prior to what he said in the news bulletin, he also believed, it took him about an hour and a half, he believed at first sight that the bone was an animal bone. Brian Littley, who is the guy that's running the private detective teamwork up at Adelaide Oval Abduction, showed him some photos from AI generated stuff, and it now comes to thing in conclusion after an hour and a half discussion that Hannenberg saying that this is a fragment of a small child, which is around about the pelvis area. Now, is this Joanne or this Kirsty? We don't know. DNA testing is now being conducted, and who knows. But here's the problem too. If it does come back positive, legally, the private investigation team had to hand this over to the South Australian Police. Now, this is where the problem is. The support network of the Adelaide Oval Abduction and other, like the Mission Beaumont and that, the support on social media. They do not want the South Australian police to get involved no matter what. Unfortunately, if it becomes a positive test in the DNA result and it comes back positive to being human, the police has to be involved legally. Unfortunately, there has been some evidence go missing, evidence gets destroyed, so forth. And I know this for a fact. The trust, the public trust in relation to the missing Beaumont Children case and the Beaumont and the Adelaide Oval, the public trust to the South Australian police is bare minimum, if at all. There is no trust in the South Australian police. So what would you do, or ask the general audience, what would you do if you were running this private investigative team, knowing full well it has been known for several years that the police has indeed destroyed evidence or evidence go missing, never to be followed up, and so forth. And they've been ruling certain things out, but they haven't done a thorough investigation. What I mean by thorough, they haven't gone the extra mile of what those private investigative team have done. You heard in that bulletin that they have ruled out an alleged suspect who used to own that property up at Yetna, Dan Arthur Hart. The police have cleared him. But if this bone fragment comes back to be positive as human, and it's one of the children of the Adelaide Oval abduction, what would the police have to do to rectify the problem that they have caused for the general public? Because I can see this. If this is going to be positive, this bone fragment, the South Australian police have got a hell of a lot to answer for. And do not be surprised that there be certain individuals in the community that will take it upon themselves to cause trouble. And I hope that's not the case. But the trust level to the South Australian police from the community that are supporting the private investigative team in the Adelaide Oval abduction and the missing Beaumont case, the public trust to the South Australian police is bare minimum, if at all. Let me play you another video from Brian Littley, who is the guy that's running the Adelaide Oval abduction with a few other people, with the sister of one of the children that disappeared, Suzanne Rutcliffe, who was working alongside Brian Littley and that. Brian Littley went to Himmelberg with the bone, and we're going to play you the video what Himmelberg said to Brian Littley. So just give me a couple of seconds. I'll bring this video up. All right, just give me a couple of seconds, guys. I'm going to make sure everything's working my end. All right. So this is Brian Littley. And credit goes out. We'll give him a shout out. We'll give him a plug. Brian Littley. All right. Let's go here. I just need to see if I can. We'll just play it from here.
First of all, your profession and your background is what?
Well, I'm a forensic anatomist.
Yes.
Amongst other things, I'm a forensic anatomist, and I provided forensic expertise to many jurisdictions in Australia, in the United States, and in South Africa. And this fragment of bone, it's most likely, although I'm not 100% certain, it's a fragment of a juvenile human pelvis. Age is difficult to tell from such a small fragment, but it is, give or take 2 or 3 years, about 10 years of age, or maybe 7 to 12 or something like this. And there is a piece of glass embedded into the bone tissue right here. And it's embedded, it's not melted in. You can see the embedding. It is not melted in, it's like a sliver of glass, as if it were pushed into the bone tissue. So that's practically all that we can tell at the moment. And so
our next steps need to be...
yes, our next steps to confirm that this is a human bone should be the DNA analysis, as it would confirm the fact that it's a human bone absolutely, and it will also tell us biological sex of the person. Or we can do histological analysis under the microscope that would tell us about 95% whether this is human or not human, but it won't tell us biological sex. So my thinking is the best would be to try to get a DNA analysis. And so I'll try to communicate with Associate Professor Jeremy Austin, who's the head of Ancient DNA Laboratory at the University of Adelaide, to see whether he can undertake the task.
Thank you, Marty. That's all I need, mate. Thank you, Renata. Thank you also for your help.
All right, back to you guys. So there was indeed glass embedded inside that bone. Now, how did the glass get there? You can make up your own speculation, your own theory. However, this does become to be indeed a human bone, and the sex is a female, and it's one of the children that was abducted from Adelaide Oval. The South Australian Police got a lot to answer for. But I do want to say this. I do want the case to be solved, one way, shape, form, or another. Right? And my hat goes off to the private investigative team. My hat goes off to Hendelberg, Professor Hendelberg. I met him personally. I've spoken to him down at the last cast I did early this year. And that was with the missing Beaumont Children case. But I think he's got a lot of expertise in his work of what to determine is a animal bone or a human bone. Now, he's saying it's most likely human, which needs to be verified, needs to have a DNA test. Now, if it comes back positive that it is a human, and it is indeed one of the children that's involved in the disappearance of the Adelaide Oval abduction, how would they give this to the police? Now, legally, they've got to, but with the knowledge of what's been happening and what's been transpiring for so many decades with the South Australian Police involvement in the investigation of the Adelaide Oval abduction and the Beaumont Children case, there is a certain level of distrust. But how would they manage this? We'll have to find out. We'll just have to play it by ear for now and see where this goes, because it's not going to be an easy ride, especially when it comes to the social support, the public support. They don't want the police involved in no matter what. But the team they know this. The private investigative team know this. They want to do things legally and the right way. And there has to be a point in time where the police will have to get involved. But until they cross that bridge, we just have to wait and see where the next stages go. whether this is a positive test, whether this is a negative test. And once they get that result, then we'll say what we can. But I think right now, the hope is still there. The hope is still there. But at the same token, we still need to keep an open mind that this bone might not be a human bone at all. We do have to keep our mind open. All right, guys. Well, that's where I'm going to leave it. I will drop the link of the pre-order of the updated version of the unmasking of the kill of the missing Beaumont children in the video section below. It'll be a pinned comment. I'll just get Shay to do it for me. And if you want to pre-order that book, you can now. I will drop that link for you guys to pre-order it now. And also, if you'd like to like, share, subscribe, please do. And also, turn on those notifications so you'll get notified when we go live. Until then, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Shay, the producer, for sharing her point of view. And if there's any more updates involving the missing Beaumont cases or the Adelaide Oval abduction, we'll let you know. But I'll leave you with this thought. Do you think both the missing Beaumont children case and the Adelaide Oval abduction case, do you believe that those two cases are connected? If so, leave your comment below. And if not, leave your comment below also. We'll see you on the next one.